Hey all, Primaris here with another In the Crosshairs video. Again, going over the new Space Marine previews that just came out today. I wish I could have done this video earlier, like right when the article came out. Unfortunately, that daytime job kept me away. I was able to read it over and I've read it multiple times. There's just so much stuff here I'm just so excited about and cannot wait for just so much. It's just blowing my mind. The more and more they're dropping stuff, I just can't believe it. It's kind of funny though too because with all this Phobos armor coming out, it's like I feel like they're already phasing out the other Primaris marks of armor. Like it's all just Phobos armor all the time, which is kind of funny, and it's like almost kind of changing up the color scheme of my army because my Star Commander's main theme or main armor color is white, but I decided with like the Phobos type of stuff to go a different color to be a lot more kind of a stealthier look to them, as you know that's kind of their whole point is to be stealthy, and white is exactly the stealthiest of armors out there, unless of course you're in some sort of a Arctic environment. Um, so it's just kind of funny how it's really kind of at least until they start releasing other models and stuff, a good portion is going to be kind of a darker color scheme for my army. So let's jump in and kind of see here right off the bat. Here we have the Incursors squad, which is just looks cool, sounds cool, has a lot of cool options here. This is going to be the other half of the Infiltrators box set that you can build. So you can build Infiltrators or you can build an Incursor squad. And yeah, just already they've got some really awesome rules here. Let's just kind of dive in here. So, in the article, they talk about there's a lot to go over from last fuses to haywire mines, and the awesome fourth part's the Angels of Death ability, the Combat Doctrines, which I can't wait till we get to that too. There's a lot to cover. So, first up, we have a brand new unit making their debut in the Codex. We have the Incursors. So, this squad is the alternative build for the multi part kit. We'll have more on the cool new stuff for them a bit later, but in addition to being armed with the Oculus bolt carbines that rob the enemy of cover, Incursors are equipped with the awesome multi-spectrum arrays that prevent them from suffering any negative modifiers when using ranged weapons. So if you want a unit that can drive an enemy unit from cover with punishingly accurate volleys of fire, then the Incursor squad is what you want. Now this is interesting here because essentially there's kind of not a lot of use for these, I feel like, in an Imperial Fist list, because their chapter tactic takes away cover. At the very least though, with the Incursors you're also going to get that additional buff of not having any negative modifiers on your hit rolls. So we'll soon like Eldari Rangers will soon learn to fear Incursors. For Cameline cloaks will offer no protection against such guided bolter fire. And if that wasn't enough, the Incursors are also armed with a pair of combat blades that give them an extra edge in combat. So as you see here, paired combat blades, still just user AP 0, damage 1, but hit rolls of a 6 unmodified will be an additional hit. So next up, we still have Incursors. They can carry smoke grenades and can set up in concealed positions, but the squad is also equipped with a haywire mine that can be planted mid-battle. Once primed, the first enemy unit to move within 3 inches of the haywire mine risks suffering D3 mortal wounds or D3 plus 1 if it's a vehicle. So that's nice. On a vehicle, you're always going to get at least 2 wounds off on it, and they're mortal wounds no less, before the mine is then removed. By fielding a number of small units, you can lay enough haywire mines to make it near suicidal to approach its aerial denial 101. So that's really cool. I'm not sure how. I mean, I guess I don't know if you have markers. I see like he's holding one. It would be nice if they have, if you can get enough of these like just on their own, and you can just place them, on the board. But then it's kind of, do you place just this, or do you put it on a base, and then what's the area? Because if it's a 3 inch, you obviously are. I guess it doesn't matter. You could put it on a huge base if you want, because my guess is from the center of it, not from the edge. You probably send, most likely, like I said, from the center of the mine, 3 inches out is where then it like clicks off. 3 inches is a decent little bubble, for sure. And if you get enough of these next to each other, definitely cool. But then let's see here. It looks like the squad. So I believe it looks like only one haywire mine per squad. So unless you're gonna dedicate and bring a couple squads of Incursors, to really lay down a lot of haywire mines isn't going to be kind of like that big of a thing. So, then next up we have this right here, the Impulsor. Now, aesthetically, still a little kind of iffy about it, but rules-wise, there's a lot of cool stuff there, and there's definitely a tactic that I could see that I might try to attempting at least for this. So the Impulsor is a fantastic all-around support vehicle. In addition to a huge variety of weapon options and other heavy or handy upgrades, is also a nifty transport option for your Primaris Space Marines. Able to bear 6 models, perfect for shifting a squad of 5 and accompanying characters safely to battle with its armored hull. If you need to race forward to claim an objective, the Impulsor is the perfect delivery system, thanks to this assault vehicle ability. So after this model moves in your movement phase, if the model did not advance, units can embark aboard it, and our units embarked aboard it can disembark. Units that did so cannot be chosen to charge that turn. So you can't charge out of it. So assault vehicle, it sounds like you can assault out of it or something. You can't, but you can disembark, which is pretty big because normally you have to disembark at the beginning of the movement phase, and then the transport can move. So basically, like with the repulsor and everything, you have to basically take up a turn of moving before they can actually disembark. So like turn 1, if you have units in there, unless you're going to get them out right where the repulsor started the game at, it has to take a turn, move up, and then turn 2 they can get out. Well, this one, not anymore. They can get out at the end of the movement. So these can actually move. The repulsor can actually move up and then turn 1 and disembark them at the new location, which is really nice. And I don't know, to me it makes more sense than the way the transports, I guess, work currently, because I mean this is a special rule for this vehicle, because the other vehicles still follow that. They have to get out before the vehicle moves. So I don't know. So and then the other thing with this is or more or less, like, what is the move characteristic? That's still something that I haven't seen, because that I think will play a huge role. Like, the repulsor can already move 10 inches, so I'm assuming this is going to move at least 10 inches, if not more. I could definitely see it going 12, probably, just that extra few inches, because it's a smaller transport. It's supposed to be kind of fast. So I could definitely see it kind of having a 12-inch move, and then you're going to have your guys be able to disembark at the end of it. Of course, they disembark, and they cannot charge. I'm also assuming, it doesn't say, because after this model moves in your movement phase, if this model does not advance, they can disembark. It doesn't say anything that they can disembark and move, because that was the other thing, is before, when the models would disembark, they would disembark 3, and then they could still move their normal movement. So essentially they're getting a 9-inch move out of their vehicle. This doesn't say anything about them still getting to move other than their disembark 3 inches. So you can kind of see where there could still be a cluster of units right in an area that might not be the best idea, but at least depending upon what the move is like, I could see a lot of benefits of this, charging up the field and jumping out onto objectives early to start racking up some victory points if it's an objective style based game or something like that, or you're denying objectives and such. So another thing on here too is to better protect its valuable cargo, the Impulsor can be equipped with a shield dome for a 4-up invuln save. But this is more than just a transport vehicle. Instead of a shield dome, you can take an Iron Hail Sky Talon array for some solid anti-air firepower, or a Bellicatus missile array for your choice of 3 missile warheads: Frag, Crack, and Icarus. Alternatively, equipping your repulsor with the Orbital Comms Array enables you to call down some serious heavy firepower in the form of an orbital bombardment. So, a lot of things to talk about right there. Shield Dome, 4-up invul, awesome. But it sounds like that's an either or thing. You either take that or you take that extra turret thing on top. That turret thing being an Iron Hail Sky Ray for some anti-air, or you can take that missile array. I don't know. For myself, I guess he trying to keep it cheaper and not trying to use it as really a weapons platform. That's kind of more or less what the repulsor has filled. I'm going to use it as a transport, so I'm going to have those storm bolters on the sides, that heavy, that, what, I don't know if it's an Iron Hail, but that heavy stubber up on top, and then from there, take the shield dome, and then again, kind of game to game, but most likely throw on that comms array. Now, throw some units in there, shoot it up the board, drop them on an objective. I've got that 4-up invuln to help them get there, especially if I'm not going turn 1. Then on top of all that, I'm going to have that orbital comms array, so then I can, keep sending it up the board and, start dropping some orbital bombardment. So we have the orbital comms array in your shooting phase. One model from this army with an orbital comms array that has not been used this battle can use it to call an orbital barrage. If it does, select 1 point in the battlefield, roll d6, and for each unit within d6 at that point, subtracting 1 from result of the character. On a 4-up, they suffer d3. So, depending upon, how many of these you bring, I could see bringing upwards of 6, depending, of course, what the rest of the army composition points-wise are for both these and what kind of points level you're playing. If you had 6 of these, all with the shield dome and comms array, and you just like kamikaze sprint them up front to get into their lines and just start dropping these orbital bombardments all over, because it's a one-time thing. Has not been used this battle, can call in an orbital barrage. So, hold on, let me see. One model from your army with an orbital comms array that's not been used this battle can use it. So, I guess rereading this, you can't really kamikaze all 6 up and do 6 at one turn. It looks like it's one model per turn. One model from your army that has not used the battle can call it in. Let me know what you think if I'm reading that right. Because at first I was reading and I was like, sure, whatever. But now to me it sounds more like one model from the army with an orbital comms that hasn't been used can use. So yeah, that to me is saying only 1. So you could still do 6, and then you have every turn, unless that impulsor has been destroyed, you could sprint one up and call in another orbital comms or another bombardment. Not as crazy as I thought at first, but I could still see the benefit of doing that. But I definitely do like the idea of them running up the board, jumping out onto objectives, and then just driving right into the fray for the rest of the way to, shoot some things up, drop some bombs, and if all else fails, hopefully explode and take some more out with them. So I definitely see it as more of a very expendable unit. So, let's see what else we got going on. We have, with all these options from just one vehicle, we've got a feeling that the impulsors are going to be a popular option among Space Marine armies. And then everyone's favorite gunfighting war machine of death, the Invictor Tactical Warsuit. So, definitely a lot of things here. As you can see already in this picture, a lot of people are wondering, will it be able to carry that heavy bolter pistol? Yes, it can. I would love to know, which I don't think it can, they haven't mentioned it, but I think it'd be cool still to see this thing have 2 of them. Go real gunslinger with it. But you have the Invictor Tactical Warsuit. Is its essence a Redemptor dreadnought that's been stripped back and redesigned with lighter, sound-dampening materials. It doesn't say this, but not to mention the pilot's still alive. Why is this cool? Because the design makes it so stealthy that it can be set up in concealed forward position like the Infiltrators and Incursors. In addition to hard-hitting Invictor Fist, the Warsuit is armed with a powerful weapon, primary weapon in the form of a flame-throwing Incendium cannon and twin Iron Hail autocannon. I find that interesting. This is actually, like, a lot of people, these look like stubbers, and then these look like stubbers, but apparently it's an autocannon. and not stubbers. And then of course we couldn't talk about the Invictor without mentioning the pistolized heavy bolter strapped to its hip. The Warsuit pistol can use its Invictor fist to draw and fire even at point blank range. So in combat, in locked in combat during the shooting phase, it's going to be able to shoot this heavy bolter in combat and then turn around and use its Invictor power fist thing. So that's pretty sweet. Then we have the Incendium Cannon, which is 12-inch range, and it's a heavy 2d6 auto hitting, strength 5 minus 1, damage 1. So basically, it's kind of like a heavy flamer. Then we have just better range. Twin Iron Hail Auto Cannon, so it's a 40-inch range. Then you have heavy 5 and 7, strength 7 minus 1, and 2 damage each. So that's pretty good. It being an iron auto cannon and not a stubber. So yeah, cool. So then again, we have the heavy sidearm. So while enemy models within 1 inch enemy units, its heavy bolter has the characteristic of pistol 3, so 3 shots from it. On that note, a number of you have been asking whether or not you can assemble the tactical warsuit with heavy bolter clutched in the fist, and yes, you can, as you can see in the picture there. That's not all. The new multi-part plastic kit to call upon the infiltrators and eliminators will soon have access to powerful new war gear options by means of the selection of powerful. By which we mean a selection of new and interesting ways to deliver a grievous death to Emperor's enemies. Let's take a look. So infiltrators, as before, infiltrators are able to set up in no man's land, concealed positions, omni scramblers to keep them at bay. But now there's this new thing. And so instead of assembling one of your infiltrators as a Helix Adept, so that kind of apothecary in training or like a field medic type of thing or field apothecary, you can equip one of your squad with an infiltrator comms array. Now this thing sounds pretty sweet. Now it doesn't look like the Incursors get it. It's just an infiltrator thing, but still sounds pretty sweet. So this handy bit of kit lets them concentrate on the merciless destruction of the enemy without having to worry about the proximity of a Phobos captain and Phobos lieutenant for the handy aura abilities, perfect for when you're sneaking around behind enemy lines. So, whilst this unit contains a model with an infiltrator comms array, if there are any friendly Phobos captain or Phobos lieutenant models on the battlefield, this unit is always treated as being within range of those models. Rights of battle and tactical precision abilities. So that's pretty amazing. It's kind of like the Vox communicator for the guard, where they can pass orders as long as a unit, like the commissar is like within so many inches of a Vox, and then the unit has a Vox. This is basically kind of the same thing. As long as there is a captain or a lieutenant anywhere, a Phobos I should say, anywhere on the field, and they have this infiltrator comms array, they're re-rolling hits and wounds, which is, well, ones of hits and wounds. So that's pretty cool. And then this one here. So finally we've got the squad with such a choice of awesome ammunition. It would make a Vindicare assassin Sid skin turn green with envy. So awesome models. I love this. I still want to see what these last fusils look like though. I still don't see any difference yet. So now I'm wanting to know, like, is there a difference, or is this just a different profile that they can shoot? Of course, like, just, I don't know, there has to be a difference because this is like a specific weapon. It's not a type of ammunition. So yeah, still trying to get a peek at what these last fusils look like, and I'm not sure why they won't show them, but they just haven't yet. So we have the Primaris Marines wearing camel cloaks and armed with an 8-foot long guns. What's not to love? These deadly marksmanship can now target enemy characters with all 3 of their bolt sniper rifles. Now this is a change here that I absolutely love, because I think a lot of us saw that they were very kind of underwhelming in their performance because of the strength 4. So they have the Executioner, Hyperfrag, and Mortis rounds, but their ammo profiles have been ramped up. For starters, they're now all strength 5, which is great. It's just that by far, just that change needed to happen to actually make these a little bit more of a viable character killing unit. Like, they did okay, but strength 4 is still kind of hard. And then you want something that can consistently get some decent wounds on there, and by making them strength 5, you're finally wounding on 3s instead of 4s for most characters. Especially other like power armor characters and such. Just they're most likely going to have some kind of an invul anyway, so they're going to get around whatever your AP is. But at least the more wounds they have to throw saves for, the better chance you have of actually getting something through. So then they talk about alternatively, you can assemble your Eliminators with las fusils, which are the first dedicated anti-tank weapons for your Primaris infantry, which I guess I don't know what Hellblasters were because I don't know. I figured they were a pretty good anti-tank weapon. They're a pretty good anti-armor, I guess you could say, but I still feel like I don't know. I guess the damage is where that comes in, because they had good anti-armor as far as I had that -4 and everything, but unless you charge them, they're only getting 1 damage. So I guess I can see where they're coming from here now. But anyway, let's take a look. So the last fusils are range 36, heavy 1, strength 8, -3 with a 3 solid damage. That's again pretty nice, but only 3 shots, and then they have this new rule where you can potentially, kind of like the way the Devastators work, the Sergeant can sacrifice his shooting to improve the others to hit. So we have the Eliminator Sergeant can also play 1 of 2 crucial roles in the squad. The Guided Aim ability enables him to forgo his own shooting to add 1 to the hit wounds of the Eliminators under his command, make sure those critical shots get the best chance of success. Meanwhile, the Sergeant can be equipped with an Instigator Bolt Carbine, which is perfect for luring your enemies into a trap. So the Instigator here allows them to do this covering fire. So the first time the unit's Eliminator Sergeant fires Overwatch with the Instigator Bolt Carbine in your opponent's turn, this unit can, after it's resolved its Overwatch, move as if it was the movement phase. It cannot advance. So as soon as they're charged, you can fire Overwatch, and then you can move your normal 6 inches away. So, unless they make a crazy great charge, unless it's something that's rolling like a 3, like especially if they're more than 12 inches away, but still, unless somebody's got something that's rolling 3d6 for a charge, the chance of them being able to stay engaged with you as you fall back is pretty slim, which is nice. Because then it leaves them open to just get shot up. Then they talk about here the non-codex chapters are basically, they will have access to all this, and there will be PDFs coming out. So they just list all the new stuff that has been coming out, and that they, in fact, will be able to use them. Now this here, this just floored me, and then between the chapter tactics and combat doctrines and just all the new stuff that these guys can do, I am pretty excited, and I'm really, really excited because when you see a lot of the competitive lists and competitive rankings, like Space Marines usually don't make the top 10, or if they do, I think like 8's the highest I've seen them. And I know a lot of people seem to be complaining right now about Space Marines, but at the end of the day, yes, they're the poster child. The Space Marines were like the first thing that they came out with, so just kind of have to accept it. And then also the fact that whether people also want to believe it or not, I totally think they're in this long phase out plan. I always said it was like a 10-year phase out plan, and then I was like, well, maybe it's 5 because stuff started coming out kind of quick. But I mean, here we are. What 2019 now, so we're at 2 years. So 3 years to go if it is the 5-year plan. Definitely a lot more, another 7 or so, if it's in fact, I guess 8 years if it's in fact the 10-year plan. But I don't know, they've been moving quickly, and they keep coming out with new stuff. So I really, at the end of the day, it's like they said, like, someone made a comment about it being the chicken and the egg. they keep releasing Space Marine stuff and then saying they keep releasing Space Marine stuff because it's their highest seller, but of course it is because you keep releasing Space Marine stuff. I will say that kind of seems true, but it's kind of like because it always has been that way, it's always been their poster child, and it's usually everybody's first army. Like everybody, for the most part, there's always exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, everybody's at least either started with or played Space Marines at one point. It's just, I mean, it is the brand. It really is. At the end of the day, you have to accept like this, like Space Marines, Warhammer 40K. I mean, that's synonymous. It is the brand. So, anyway, off that quick high horse deviation, Angels of Death Combat Doctrines. So, the Combat Doctrines represent a structured way in which the adherents of the Codex Astartes overcome any adversaries. So, previous editions, you can remember the Ultramarines had to form this ability a number of years back. Now it doesn't just apply to them, but to all the chapters and any successor chapters you've created that use the rules from the Codex Space Marines. Here's how it works. So your Space Marines will begin the battle with the Devastator Doctrine active. At the start of any of your turns after the first, you can choose to change from the Devastator Doctrine to the Tactical Doctrine, and again on a later turn from the Tactical Doctrine to the Assault Doctrine. Once you've changed doctrines, you cannot go back. Your Space Marines are already committed, but your current doctrine will remain active for the remainder of the battle unless it's changed. So here are the benefits you can look forward to. So that's an interesting thing right there that people just definitely need to make a note of, that you will always start with the Devastator Doctrine. You can switch from the Devastator Doctrine to other doctrine, but you can never go back. So once you leave the Devastator Doctrine, which you will always start with, you can switch it, but you can't ever go back to Devastator Doctrine, and subsequently with the other ones as well. So if you switch over to Assault Doctrine and then you want to go to Tactical Doctrine, you can't go back to Assault Doctrine, you can't go back to Devastator Doctrine, you're stuck at Tactical Doctrine for the rest of the game. So it definitely adds another flavor in there. Yeah, so we'll jump in here and I'll definitely give some of my thoughts on this, but yeah, the Devastator Doctrine. Armor penetration characteristics of your heavy and your grenade weapons. This model is equipped with is improved by 1 whilst the Combat Doctrine is active. Yeah, I'm going to come back around to that one because, wow. The Tactical Doctrine. Armor penetration characteristic of rapid fire and assault weapons. This model is improved by 1 whilst this Combat Doctrine is active. So definitely see a lot of Salamander players probably going to pull that out because your assault weapons with your flamers and stuff, I mean, they're going to have some -1s and -2s out there for flamers, which will be pretty big for them. And then you have your Assault Doctrine. So armor characteristic of pistol and melee weapons this model is equipped with is improved by 1 whilst this Combat Doctrine is active. So AP0 becoming AP1 again. So, I mean, that's another big one too. If you've moved up the field and most of your things are engaged, then I could see, especially the way I play, I try, because Space Marines, for the most part, playing all Primaris, I should say, because my homebrew chapter is all Primaris. They do not have a reliable close combat kind of unit or anything right now. So I could see potentially switching over to Assault Doctrine in the later parts of a game to get just a little extra punch through if I have a lot of units that are engaged in close combat. Yeah, so yeah, let me look down. I think that's kind of the end of so that's the end of the article. So I want to talk more about these chapter tactics real quick, or the Combat Doctrines, and then just kind of overall kind of where I'm headed right now with my own homebrew chapter. So Devastator Doctrine is by far my favorite one of all three of them. I can't really say it's unfortunate you start out with it, which kind of really locks you into, you kind of have to stick with that. You can't really deviate from that if you want to go into the other ones. I don't know. I'm not too upset with that because honestly, as I look at the three of them, and while they're all good, the Devastator Doctrine is by far probably the one that I would use the most because I usually keep at range and kind of do pretty much like kind of a gun line for the most part. So having that extra armor penetration with the heavy, and then the other thing being the grenade weapons. Having a -1 with grenades is going to be huge for me because I pretty much have kitted out my repulsors with their extra side kind of sponsored weapons to be the grenade launcher. So all my repulsors have 4 D6 firing grenade launchers on them. So that's a lot of shots that they usually pump out, and then having that extra minus on them, and sometimes I'll even have a captain around, so I'll get to re-roll misses. And then the other big thing with them as well is usually, and I'm not sure, we haven't seen Warlord traits yet, and if those will change or mostly stay the same, but I usually give the Storm of Fire Warlord trait. So on wound rolls of 6, you get an additional AP, which is always nice with the grenades already, having 6s be -1. So with this, I'll have just my regular grenades at -1, and then my 6s will be -2, which can be pretty amazing. And then, of course, everything else with a heavy is going to be an additional minus. So, again, repulsors firing las cannons, las talons, and then the new executioners with that laser destroyer. And then probably the biggest thing that I'm excited about is the heavy Hellblasters. They're going to be, before overcharging, strength 8, -5 AP on those. So with a 36-inch range. So you set them up in cover with a 2-up save, 36-inch range, strength 8 with a -5. Then if you overcharge, have a captain by them, so you can, even if you don't put a captain by them and just accept that you're going to lose some, you're going to be doing 2 damage at strength 9 -5. Like, that's pretty good. As long as you're not shooting at something that's got a really good in-ball, you're going to be taking down some decent stuff pretty well. And then, split firing, and just, it can be some real amazing stuff. Even before with just the regular Hellblasters, I've, taken out, just overcharged and taken out a Riptide pretty easily. So pretty excited about that, actually. And like I said, for the most part, I feel like I'll be sticking with the Devastator doctrine for the most part, because really I've just pretty much been staying at range and everything and shooting my heavy weapons and just trying to take some stuff out before it gets to me. The only problem with that is kind of that sit back and bombard type of thing. With objective games and stuff like that, it can kind of hurt you, but then with this new pulsar, could potentially be some decent mobility on there for my army to kind of fill kind of something that's been lacking with being able to jump on objectives, instead of kind of just trying to sit back and take the enemy out at range. So pretty excited about all that. Plus, anyway, with the repulsors, a great thing why I would do 4 grenade launchers on them is because when I would move up, and if people try to come in and they want to charge and get in combat, having all those grenades and all those shots in Overwatch was great. And then on top of it, once being in combat, being able to fly out and then shoot all that again is, really saved me more times than I can count. So having all that with a -1 will be just great, just amazing. I can't wait. So as it stands right now for the Star Commanders, I'm really leaning toward, I'm definitely, like I said, I'm going to stick to my word because, they're Alpha Legion, so I want to keep that theme of the Raven Guard kind of idea that, because their traits are kind of the same, and who knows when the new Chaos Space Marines Codex comes out if they're going to maintain that similarity, but in the meantime, I'm going to go with that, and I'm leaning definitely toward keeping the outside of 12 cover save So 2-ups, my whole army outside of 12 inches, and then most likely going to be going with the Iron Hands trait of double the wounds for the damage chart purposes, so that way my tanks are still performing pretty much at full strength for a very long time until basically they're destroyed. So in a way, I could also see that helping to also kind of deviate the opponent's attention to, like, they really have to focus down and destroy that tank completely for it to stop being a threat, instead of just pumping enough into it to get it down a tier or two and then just ignoring it because it's not so much of a threat. You know, with a 3-inch movement and hitting on like 5s, like, that's not anything. But you know, I like the idea of having that 2-up save, and then again having that ability to kind of shrug it off for the most part. Not quite shrug it off like a feel no pain, but shrug it off as just ignore it and keep trucking along like nothing's the problem. So I think that with that Devastator Doctrine, I think that'll be some pretty good tactics going on. I'm very excited anyway to try it out and see how it goes. But like I still said, I gotta get that codex in hand and start seeing what we got going on, especially with these chapter tactics. I really want to know what all the 19 choices are, because I definitely think my second choice could be swayed or changed depending on what those other options that are available are. So, wow, this has been just a crazy day. I can't wait to see what else they got going on. They mentioned in the article about maybe the next few days that they're going to be taking a look at Tigerius and what's the other one? The Khan, the White Scars characters. So hopefully they put them in an article together, because I want to get back into if they're gonna like maybe focus more. Because I just want to know a little bit more information on like the Impulsor, like what is its move, because that can really be key on how to use that model. If it can really move good without advancing and then jumping out and stuff like that. So definitely excited for these next days to come, and of course it is most certainly a great day to be a loyal servant of the Emperor. So as much as people may dislike it that are not Imperium players, this is definitely a great time. I'm excited. I'm really hoping that we start to see the Space Marines getting in top 5 in a lot of terms. I know a lot of people are probably like not for that and whatever, but I just want to. I feel like it's been a while since we've seen some really good competitive Space Marine lists. And you know what? If it's cheese, it's cheese. I just want to see it. So, well, let me know down in the comments below what you think. What are you most excited for? What are some tactics or thoughts you've got going on with your armies? And yeah, let's just start that discussion, see kind of like what other people are thinking. And again, if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen what I've got going on, please check it out. If you have any suggestions or ideas, please put them down in the comments below. And then of course, hit that subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and definitely help support my channel in that way. And then again, if you haven't already checked out my Facebook page, you can find the link in the description below and check out what I got going on there. I update that pretty regularly, just with all different kind of projects I got going on. And most of it again is very centered on 40K, but I definitely go into a few other hobbies from time to time and share some things. But please check it out, and like the page if you want. And then again, please subscribe to the channel here. And with that, until next time.